And I won't stop until I start to stand out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to LorcanaCast, the happiest podcast on earth. We are here on Thanksgiving week, as well as the weekend after the Lorcana release of Rise of the Floodborn. It has been an insane amount of fun, joy, and all kinds of cool stuff. And we are going to talk about our favorite card artwork and our favorite card mechanics coming from this set. So we are here with Mr. James Dreimer. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Happy to have the Illumineers here. They're the main reason I'm probably even in this Lorcana world, so super happy they're here.
Yeah, we've also got Mr. Greg. How's it going?
What's up? Another day, another dollar. It's been 7 days since the last episode, so that means I would have $7. I'm rich.
You could buy one booster pack.
If I'm that lucky.
With
I'm lucky to find
it. Cover you, just cover you. And then we have a very special guest here joining us, and that would be the Illumineers. How are y'all doing today?
Amazing.
We're doing well.
Any night we get to hang out with three of our favorite people is a good night.
Yeah. This is going to be super duper fun. So like we said, it's going to be a really fun and laid back episode because we know a lot of people who are listening are probably traveling, spending time with their family. And we just want to give you something to enjoy on the road, on the plane, wherever you're headed off to. And we hope that everyone has a really, really fun time, both spending time with family, friends, and loved ones during Thanksgiving holiday and finding yourself some cool packs of Rise of the Floodborn and getting to play with set 2. Because there's some really, really cool cards, and I'm excited to discuss them with some really awesome people here in the community. So to kick this off, we're going to send it over to the masters of artwork and knowledge of things of that nature and talk to the Illumineers about your favorite cards artwork in the set.
Oh, man. So I have to admit, this was such a hard task because this set brought some bangers in terms of artwork. And I went round and round. But for me, I settled on a card which I don't know that it tops anybody's list, but those are the best cards for me to highlight, are the ones that maybe don't scream at you right off the bat, like Honey Wizard. My favorite card that I'm going to highlight tonight is Minnie Mouse, Wide-Eyed Diver. I love this piece for a number of different reasons. First, it introduced to us a brand new artist, Adam Fenton. I think this is his first Lorcana piece. He's actually from Austin, which is where we are, so that was pretty exciting. Adam has a fantastic career and portfolio, and you should definitely look him up and follow him. Hope we get to talk to him soon. But to me, like, good art does several things. One of the most important things is it tells a story. When you look at a piece and you see a character or an item or something like that, you want to kind of see it in context, and you want to get something from that other than, here's the character staring at you. And in this piece, Minnie Mouse, with her expression, the way she's looking at Ursula's cave, is just fantastic. Not to mention, it doubles with Donald Duck's diver card, where you see Minnie in the background and you get a little bit of lore from Donald Duck's flavor text, which shows that they're together exploring the seafloor looking for lost lore, which is probably why Minnie Mouse is about to head into Ursula's cave. So it tells a story. It advances the narrative. The card is beautiful. And one other thing I'll highlight is, the steampunk motif that we see Minnie Mouse in is really cool. Because for those who are Disney fans, or deep Disney fans, that Disney has a long history of like the steampunk genre. They embraced, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ages ago. And the Nautilus, both in the movie and then in the ride, are a very steampunky, Victorian era like technology, right?
Right in the feels. I remember riding that ride. It was cool. Yeah.
Right. And
flashbacks.
So
yeah.
There's also like Discoveryland, which I never got to go to, but Disneyland Paris, which is the same. It's a tribute to Verne and H.G. Wells. And so this retro futuristic, like steampunk theme that Minnie Mouse has going on is really, the artist kind of like, I feel like it's an homage to those classic Disney like rides and stories. So there's just a lot about this art that works for me. To sum it up, it tells a story. It's a beautiful piece. It screams Ruby Ink identity. It advances the lore. And then I feel like, is an homage to classic Disney.
I guess I'm up next, and I will apologize at the beginning of this because our daughter has decided that she does not want to be sitting down. She wants me walking around the house. So hopefully she will cooperate during my card review. So I chose the Queen of Hearts Sensing Weakness card. I feel like this card, when it, it was in the final like announcement when the app went. Oh, thank you for taking her. Yeah. I feel like it was kind of wrapped up in all those cards that were a part of the app release of cards at the very end. So I think it flew a little bit under the radar of people from that, because we just got inundated with cards that last week. But I think it's absolutely stunning in so many different ways. It tells, as Liam was mentioning, it also kind of tells a story. You see this Floodborn Queen of Hearts, adorned in armor, commanding all of her cards into what looks like battle. You see this like ominous thing floating in the sky that almost looks like it's the Grand Illuminary, but it's made of roses. So it doesn't, I don't think it is the Grand Illuminary, but I'm just so fascinated with like, what is this thing that is hovering over them? And you have just such a sense of movement in this card with the rose petals just like flying by the card viewer, and it almost looks like some of the roses on the cards spears are turning into actual rose petals maybe and flying by. It's just, so that coupled with like the lighting, the light work that they did in this card, that Isaiah did in this card, and how it just encapsulates her and the smoke and the mystery of it. I'm so fascinated by the story behind this card and kind of what is going on in this scene. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. I love seeing the queen in armor going into combat of some sort, and I hope we get to learn more about like what is the story behind this.
That's really cool. I noticed that both of these cards are in Ruby. So does that mean you two might be doing some Ruby building once you get your hands on enough cards from set 2?
Yeah, honestly, I think we might, purely out of curiosity, because they're not in the starter decks. And so I just am really, you don't get to really like playtest them. You don't get to playtest Ruby in the starter decks from Rise of the Floodborn. So I think we'll probably look at building a Ruby deck purely to like see how everything kind of works together in this color with all of these new cards.
I like it. Now here's a question. James is going to love this one too. Are you feeling comfortable enough with just monocolor decks now, or do you still think you need to splash in that additional color to help kind of fill out some of the gaps?
My answer, and I want to hear James's answer, but my answer is always and will forever be the only monocolor deck right now, which makes sense to me, is Amethyst, because you always splash friends. You always splash friends.
I'm on the exact same page. I was just about to say that's the only one I would say can play mono right now, especially with this awesome Merlin Mim bounce package we got that fills in like almost half your deck. So like you really could just bounce a bunch of stuff, gain a lot of lore, draw a lot of cards, and just have a good time. You don't have to really interact too much.
No 7 dwarf spam, really?
I think I'm still in the category of like, what is the point of doing mono outside of saying that you've done it? Even if you had like just one card of a different ink color, I mean, having 2 ink colors working together, I don't really yet see the point in doing mono outside of it being like a flex that you won a game with a mono deck.
I went to locals and won with this mono deck.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Definitely. I think from a game design perspective, it probably runs into some challenges to run a monocolor deck because, of course, as we know, any ink counts as any color. It's not like Magic or Duel Masters where like you need to have corresponding colors to like pay for the casting cost of cards. And so I think it'll be interesting, maybe future design space to incentivize more monocolored decks. But yeah, at the current moment, there's definitely no reason not to play that second color because there are going to be cards that help with your strategy of one of them. And you're going to want to chuck those other cards in. So definitely, I think we're all in pretty much 100% agreement here.
Hashtag always splash friends.
Or even Popsicle. Popsicle's great. I love that card.
That was such a great card.
Oh, you're stealing my thunder for round 2.
Okay. We'll
we'll
give you
talk about it again.
that little tidbit, that little bite to get people postulating about the favorite
Hashtag
mechanics.
editing.
Yeah. Well, we're keeping that one in. That one's pretty fun. All right, let's hear from James. What is your favorite card artwork in Rise of the Floodborn?
Man, this was a tough one. Honestly, I might be a little biased because it's new, but I really have felt like I've enjoyed the art of this set even more than the first set, and the first set was amazing. And so I had to narrow down from a long list, but ultimately Grace Tran introduced my favorite art of the set, which is kind of a sleeper pick in that Sisu Divine Water Dragon. Even if she's not the competitive card, I just think she's beautiful. There's only 3 dragons in the game at the moment, Maleficent, Madame Mim, and her. And I've always loved this character ever since I was introduced to Raya. I was pretty late to the game with that film, but like this just brings back a lot of that classic as a kid wanting to collect all the dragons, like with Yu-Gi-Oh! Blue Eyes White Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon. It just kind of brings back that classic gotta have all the dragons feeling. And then like I just always love the art that has this really simple, really clean silhouette. The fact that Sisu is this really unique looking dragon with horn on her head. I just think she's super easy to identify. And I like when they sort of have like the character bringing their sort of emotions or their traits to some sort of permanent stance, and the background's kind of just like blurred out, very subtle, versus like having a bunch of layers. And so yeah, this one checks all the boxes for me. I think it's beautiful, especially in foil. And I even like the default one more than the enchanted, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting.
I honestly wish I could get that art on a full art, just like the enchanted, but like just use Grace Tran's art here. And I'll say like Grace Tran probably hits it out of the park every single time. I think she made one of my favorite cards and arts from the first set, which was Cusco, Temperamental Emperor. And so, yeah, I think I'm just a fan of her in general. Anytime she makes art, I'm like, oh, I got to check it out. For sure.
James, give me your address. I have a surprise for you. Can I just offer to for Grace? Grace is from Vietnam, and the movie Raya. Sorry, I'm blanking out. Raya like had a really special place in her heart because it represented Asia, Southeast Asia. So for her to get to do Sisu, she said that it was such an honor and a pleasure, and it meant a lot to her to be able to bring that character to life. So she connects with that character and all the characters from that movie in a very special way. So it's just an even cooler piece. I agree with James, for that reason.
That's beautiful. I'll add even one more piece of that. It's just like Awkwafina, the actress. I don't know.
Yes.
I was a fan of her. Like I've been a fan of her since she made silly YouTube videos like a decade ago, and just seeing her sort of bloom into like being in 2 Disney movies now. She was also Scuttle in The Little Mermaid.
Yep.
Like it's just amazing to see her bring these characters to life and bring her personality to it. And I'll admit, hearing her voice when I play the card also makes me like it a little bit more. She has very.
I have to say, I love that they made Scuttle a woman in The Little Mermaid. That was so awesome. I was so excited when they announced Awkwafina was voicing Scuttle.
And I'm sure we could debate if you're a fan of the Scuttlebutt song or not, but in my household, the kids love that song.
Oh, dangerous territory, my man. Dangerous territory.
That is a song I'm hoping Elena will never hear.
Okay. All right, Mr. Greg, you've got the con. What is your favorite artwork from Rise of the Floodborn?
All right, I never thought I'd be able to say this again, but I feel like I'm reliving my days of high school theater where I see 3 people audition in front of me and absolutely knock it out of the park, and I'm and I'm here to go ahead and follow it up. But yeah, aside from that, I love Strength of a Raging Fire, and I think it kind of comes back to this motif of what Ryan Miller was saying in the early days. Even before Lorcana even came out, where it's just like, some of these pictures are recognizable, and love them. It's familiar with the canon. Of course, there's Floodborn, Dreamborn, and all that good stuff that kind of showed them in reimagined ways. But I think one of the main reasons I really love this piece is because, of course, the recognizability factor, but also I think it's the composition of the image is zoomed out a bit to where you can really see the coordination and the exact just how lined up all these soldiers are in the card. And of course, maybe breaking the rules of the assignment a little bit. I just feel like the flavor and thematics of the card really work because you see a bunch of dudes there and then you get to deal damage equal to the number of characters you have in play. And then also, more interestingly, I love with this song idea alongside the art is that the card name can be lyrics from the song. It doesn't have to be just the card name itself. I think maybe we've seen a little bit of that in set 1, but being able to kind of expand upon this more in set 2, I really love that. So, of course, art doesn't exist in a vacuum. I just love all the other aspects of the cards. And of course, I'm cheating a little bit here by adding thematics on top of the art. But there we go. Suki can tell me later that I missed the assignment, but yeah, that's it. Also, interestingly enough, this piece seems to be a collaboration. I'm not quite sure if this is a first in Lorcana. Maybe our wonderful people from Illumineers may be able to kind of shed some light on this, but I'm interested of hearing, or maybe eventually finding out, kind of which artist did which portion of the piece, or like how these collaboration pieces come together in Lorcana.
Ooh, we could nerd out about this for a while. But the collaboration pieces are, each card is unique in terms of why they're collaborations. Generally what happens is it could be a myriad of reasons as to why a piece gets handed off from one artist to another. Sometimes it's because an artist is busy and they've got multiple cards to finish up and maybe they don't have time. And so the team will take it and give it to somebody else. Sometimes, the artist, something on their schedule comes up. Sometimes, to be honest, an artist can't quite nail a specific piece. And so whoever has it first, perhaps there's a character that they can't quite get right, or they need help with the background or something like that. And so it'll get handed off. But each card is unique in terms of why it's handed off and what each artist does. So in this card, we really don't know. And that would be a question for the artist as to who did what. It could be somebody doing the background and somebody doing the figures, or it could be maybe even just there's one particular character which the artist couldn't quite get on model for Disney, and so they had to hand it off. But it doesn't. What are you gonna say?
Oh, I was going to add to that. Additionally, there's a group of artists behind the scenes that are doing concept art. A lot of these artists you won't actually see listed on the cards themselves. But there is this whole other group of artists at Ravensburger who is supporting Ravensburger going through the approval process with Disney, and they're called concept artists, and they'll do rough sketches of the cards to get approval before Ravensburger will move forward with a final card artist. So that we're starting to learn more and more about these concept artists. But they're kind of behind the scenes artists as well.
Excellent. Of course, I knew I can count on both of you to have a reliable answer for that kind of question. So
nerd out all night.
Definitely. Thank you.
I do want to mention one more thing, and it's only that it almost sounds bad to say like a card is handed off from one artist to another. And it's purely a function. It's not that the artist isn't talented. It's not that, and this card's a perfect example where both Jared and Alex have done numerous cards, solo cards, but the problem is sometimes the workload is so much because they're trying to turn cards so quickly, and the approval process with Disney sometimes requires significant back and forth between, with Ravensburger as the middleman in order to get characters on model. And because of that back and forth, it's a significant workload. And sometimes it just works out that it's better to hand that card off to somebody due to scheduling or workload or whatever else. So it's no slight on any of the artists involved. It's just sometimes a collaboration ends up with a better final piece than it would with one artist alone.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, highlights, some of the workflow considerations that go into making sure that these sets are ready to be printed on time, because I'd imagine that these schedules, I know crunch definitely exists on like the design aspect of the game. So of course it would, go to show to extrapolate that further to apply that to the art side of the game, of course. So yeah, just like, interesting to think about on all aspects there.
Can I another thing you brought up that I like wanted to echo was I love these cards where the name of the card isn't necessarily the song cards where the name of the card isn't necessarily the name of the song. I additionally love when we see song lyrics on non-song cards, and I'm hoping we see more of that. For instance, like Coconut Basket from first chapter. I love how they'll incorporate a song card into a non-song card, if that makes sense.
Song lyrics into a non-song card.
Yeah, song lyrics, but like
consider the coconut. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's like a little Easter egg for you to find, just like for those adventurous enough to read the flavor text. Because I'm actually kind of curious to hear what maybe the numbers would be. I know we don't have like an accurate way to determine that, but I'd venture to say that maybe a lot of players don't even look over the flavor text. So just like seeing that there is such a pleasant surprise to be like, oh wait, I recognize this. And then being like, oh yeah, exactly, that's where I recognize it from. Just like those satisfying moments of joy or like whimsy that we can say when playing Lorcana definitely goes a long way just to have the overall feeling be improved.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool point because there's just so much flavor in this set. Like my favorite card by far for artwork is Alice Growing Girl. I think they just nailed this character. Alice in Wonderland is by far one of my favorite IPs of all time. It's just a fascinating movie. It's a great book. And the Disneyfication of the characters was really unique. I'm really excited for a Tweedledee Tweedledum and the Mad Hatter in the future. But if you look at the artwork, and for those who are listening, we're going to have a video podcast where the card art will be up so you can actually see the cards we're talking about. But she's wearing a dress that is very similar to her film counterpart, but has definitely got some Illuminary extra kind of frills and different designs. She's in that mode of, she ate the food and she's gotten super big, but it's not exactly the same room that we've seen from the film. There's just a lot of interesting nods to the source material. And then she's just dominating the frame of the card, which I think is a really cool nod to simulate the fact that this character is just growing out of control. And that brings me to one thing I wanted to bring to the table before we go to commercial break. And that's something that I think that Rise of the Floodborn seems to feel in the artwork a lot more action and dramatic. Like there's a lot more action scenes and action going on and stuff going down. And I'm not saying that the first set was more static. I just feel like set 2 is more, what's the word? In motion. Have you noticed any of that with the artwork?
Oh goodness. I would have to take a look. I haven't compared the sets back to back enough to say whether that's the case or not, but I do think I wouldn't be surprised given the in Magic it's very common to have a designer who's the director for a specific set, and they want that set to have a cohesive feel. And I do think that in the first chapter, the goal was to introduce people to the world of Lorcana, and so you had cards like the Mickey holding out his hand, the welcoming Mickey, and several other cards where the goal was just to show us this world. And Rise of the Floodborn, because of the story, is definitely designed to be where the action starts. It's where we're getting introduced to what actually happened to cause this travesty in the world of Lorcana with this giant ink flood. And so I wouldn't be surprised to learn that the art director for this set designed the cards in such a way to give it a very adventurous and story, like a action driven feel. So I won't say I haven't compared the cards well enough to say that I 100% agree with you, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
I would love to see a video on that. I think it's very interesting because if you look just at thinking about Sisu, she's kind of in motion. She's doing a thing. You think about Minnie. She's kind of in action doing a thing. A lot of these characters are in the middle of something going on. You look at Pinocchio, you look at Ratigan, you look at Basil. There's not a lot of action pose, the classic superhero stand in front and strike a pose looks. They're all kind of doing something. Like even Prince Naveen, he's walking. Pinocchio, the star attraction, the one with 3 lore, he's performing on stage. Cruella, the fashionable cruiser, she's driving a car. Everybody's kind of doing something. And it just kind of fascinated me because there's all these, I like a lot of anime. So there's a lot of streaks and lines that would denote motion, mobility, something happening. And I just don't recall nearly as much of that in set 1. It was much more like classic artwork, striking a pose, scenery, stuff like that. And set 2 just feels so much more adventurous. And I really like that if that's actually something that happened in the artwork design, if that was intentional.
One thing I'll also kind of mention, and it might that deals with this is initially with the Disney approval process, Disney was very strict with how they allowed certain characters to be showed, and they wanted the focus to be on the characters with very little background. And over time, as they did more and more artwork, it sounds like the reins were loosened a little bit as they gained trust between the companies and as everybody kind of figured each other out. And the artists were allowed to do more with the backgrounds and more with the detail, et cetera. So I will say that some of the pieces we see in set 2 were actually some of the first pieces that the artist did. Sometimes, a piece will show up and an artist will say, whoa, that was one of my first pieces that was done. And we saw that a couple times. But it could be that some of these pieces, if they were done after some of the first chapter artwork, they seem more dynamic, more action oriented, because the team, the Ravensburger, was allowed to do more with these cards. So that's also a possibility.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages. Thank you so much for joining us here on this episode. If you want to help support the show, you can follow us on X or Facebook at LorcanaCast, as well as leave a review on your favorite podcast aggregate. This helps your friends know about the awesome content you're listening to and grow and build this amazing community that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to get right back into the show. All right, we are back, and we are going to talk about Rise of the Floodborn mechanics. So for people who are new to trading card games, there's always a lot of things that pull people into card games. Sometimes it's the IP, sometimes it's the artwork, sometimes it's the mechanics, sometimes it's my family likes it. There's so many different variables that make people interested in trading card games, not just Lorcana, but just games in general. And so we're going to take this back half of the episode to talk about our favorite card mechanics and what interests us about these cards. So to kick it off, we're going to go back to our friends, the Illumineers, and why don't you tell us about your favorite card and its mechanic?
Thank you so much. I'm, again, so excited to be here. So excited to nerd out about these cards. And I'm really excited to talk about I'm going to cheat. I've got a pair of cards because you can't talk about these in isolation. And the cards I want to talk about are Popsicle, which is a great pun, and Nick Wilde, Wily Fox. For those who are unfamiliar, Popsicle is a fantastic little item. When you play it, you get to draw a card for 1 cost, so it's a little cantrip, and then you can banish it to remove 2 damage from a chosen character. But it gets even better when you incorporate Nick Wilde, who for 4 ink, when he's played, you can return Popsicle from your discard pile to your hand. And then he's a 2/4 that quests for 2. And so what you're really setting up here is, play Popsicle, do something with it, it gets banished, and then later in the game, you bring it back with Nick Wilde. From a gameplay perspective, it's super fun because, every time you play Popsicle, you're getting a card. So every time you Nick Wilde, you're getting Popsicle back, you're getting another card. And then, one thing I like to remember with items is the effect of the item is good, remove 2 damage from a chosen character. It's a fun utility card. But in this game so far, we see a lot of other cards that care about items, or cards that will blow up items to deal damage, or cards that will sacrifice items to draw a card. And so really what you're getting with Popsicle is not just potentially the damage removal, but you're really getting fuel for some of your other item slinger-y cards. So I think this is one of the cards that'll make item slingers go. But for me, the biggest reason I picked it is not just how good I think it'll be, because I don't necessarily think you'll see Nick in a ton of different decks, some item slinger decks. But I love cards that are full of flavor, that work together, that are kind of niche. And so to me, this combo is just so fun, and I think you'll see it, maybe some in the meta now, and then it might disappear for a while. And then one day you'll see it pop back up again because it's just a fun little combo. And I just love the flavor of it, and the artist killed it as well. I can't not mention that. But I don't know. What do you all think about this Popsicle Nick Wilde combo?
Again, I'm big on the flavor, but I think Tamatoa Items was the first deck that I ventured into going to Lorcana locals with, just because it was so fun to play Tamatoa, throw a bunch of items on the table, and have this really thematic deck. And I think, like you said, this just at least the Popsicle goes directly in there because you didn't have a lot of 1-cost items to really get the engines going. A lot of them were kind of 3 or 4 costs or 5 costs. And so, having another one besides the golden flower, I believe, is a nice addition to a Tamatoa item that just needs to drop a bunch of them and then quest for 12 and end the game.
I want to give a shout out to Patrick Coben in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! With the Upstart Goblin question. If you could play your deck with 56 cards in Lorcana, would you? And of course, it's not a direct 1-to-1 comparison. Popsicle is in a game with a resource system. It does cost 1, so Upstart Goblin is free, and of course that argument translated a bit better there. But even then, I just love the idea of Popsicle, just cantripping. It's super cheap. It has another utility effect. It's definitely giving you more than one card's worth of value for one card, and this, from a value perspective, that's definitely what I want to see in this game.
You can also ink it if everything goes like super south. So
exactly,
it's an ink. It's a cantrip. Like it refills your hand. You can dig deeper if you synergize with item decks that utilize items for offensive or defensive values. I feel like Popsicle is probably going to get thrown into a lot of decks for testing. And we should see something come of it either now or later because it's just so efficient.
Well, and just to add on, so first of all, leave it to Liam to pick a pun card as his favorite. Liam nailed the dad jokes about a decade before he became a dad.
Practicing.
And I do want to add, so the thing I love about, from a flavor perspective, about Popsicle and Nick Wilde is in the movie, they would hand out they would sell the popsicles to all of the guys leaving work, and the guys would throw the popsicle sticks in the garbage. They would then collect the popsicle sticks and reuse them. And so that's the flavor element that I love about this, is that basically you're throwing your popsicle stick into your discard pile and then Nick is reusing it. And I think that that's just so clever.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the flavor text says, "It's criminal how good these things taste." Like it's just absolutely hilarious. This wombo combo of the 1-2 punch. It's great. It's really well designed. I agree.
So I guess I'm up next. I wanted to talk about Hey Hey, who I think is either your favorite card or the card you hate. And for me, it's the card I hate. Because I was not playing the Amethyst deck in my starter deck event this weekend. However, all of my opponents were, and it was the most annoying card on the planet. I did enjoy the Amber Sapphire deck, but just this Hey, I hate this card. I love this card and I hate this card. Super excited to try the Amethyst deck though, because I'm gonna use it. So Amethyst is Hey is a 2-cost 2/1, and he quests for 1 lore. And that sucker, every time he gets banished, goes back into your hand and just comes back out onto the table.
And he will.
Oh, he will.
He's
and
back.
There will be multiple of them, and they will just keep coming. And you just have to keep challenging them. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do about it with the the Amber Sapphire deck. Like, nothing you can do about it.
You hit him with the beast, 1 damage. That's the only thing. Oh,
That's it.
Yeah, beast, 1 damage.
Yeah, but that's not in the starter deck.
There's
Uh-oh.
one of them in there, at least 1 or 2.
Oh, there's one of them in
Yeah.
there? Well, maybe I didn't draw it.
There are
So
more.
anyway. So yeah, Hey. Don't have a whole lot to say about him other than the fact that everybody's going to have a love-hate relationship with him. He is gorgeous, though, and I never thought I would say that about Hey.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful card.
I don't
Yeah,
want
that
this
card
as
is
an
foul.
enchanted rare. Oh my God! Did you just say he's foul?
Yep, he did.
Oh, that's it. Good night, everybody. we're getting on out of here.
And that's my husband for you, folks.
Sorry, I'll put myself in the penitentiary.
Oh no! It's getting worse. Stop him! Somebody stop him!
He's here all night, everyone. He's here all night.
Good night, everybody.
Anyway, so yeah, that's all I have to say about Hey. I'll be short and sweet about it.
I want to know Greg's thoughts on this because from an efficiency standpoint, he just seems really, really good.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think the toughest sell for Hey is that just like a quest for 1 lore doesn't have like a huge impact on the game, but of course in a lower powered starter deck format, I'd imagine that Hey would be the MVP because in the early days, I know definitely for set 1 starter decks, like you would run out of cards. And like because of that, if you were to draw into Dr. Facilier like 7 costs and like start getting your things back to hand, you just completely outvalue the opponent. And I imagine that creates game states and with Hey that you just have more cards. He's there for ink, you keep on playing him, whatever it may be, and then eventually you just go and outvalue the opponent in the starter deck game. So Yeah, it is pretty fun.
This is not realistic at all, but if you do Ruby Amethyst, you can basically do Shere Khan on the board to gain lore from attacking. Now,
No.
watch out, and then just throw chickens. Just throw chickens
Oh
at people.
my gosh. Insert chicken sound effect here.
Again, the imagery. I always love when like random characters sing songs that completely don't align with them. But I'm sitting here thinking about Shere Khan just throwing chickens at his opponent.
I just love that it's so on theme with the film too. Like he just kept disappearing. Everyone thought he died, and he always kept coming back. And it's perfect. It's perfect. Like,
Something's wrong. I can feel it. All right, Greg, hit us with your favorite card mechanic from set 2.
Excellent. So one thing I really love about trading card games is when the designers, either intentionally or unintentionally, I'd like to believe it's intentionally in this case, they just leave you little breadcrumbs of like cool card designs that then work and synergize with other cards. Sometimes it's more obvious. They give you the whole loaf of bread, as we've seen with, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, or the whole entire Madame Mim Merlin package with all the bouncy in this game. Sometimes the developers give you the whole entire sandwich, pre-wrapped, pre-made, just sold like that. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper in order to find the synergy and see where the card really lies, or see where the strengths of the card really lie. And I love Christopher Robin Adventurer from this set. So for those who don't know, he is 6 ink, inkable, 2 strength, 6 willpower, Christopher Robin Adventurer, quest for 2 lore. And the ability is will always be together. How lovely. It's Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin on the same card. Whenever you ready this character, if you have 2 or more other characters in play, gain 2 lore. Of course, being as I'm a working adult, as the rest of us, I initially just expected, I like read it real quick. I'm just like, okay, so he has to wait a whole entire turn. And then it's like, oh, it's when you ready. It's when the ready, set, draw phase, right? But I reread the card. No, it's not. It's whenever he gets readied. And so there is a handful of cards in Ruby that ready your cards, such as Shield and LeFou. LeFou Instigator readies cards. And so, again, with that kind of breadcrumb story that I kind of brought up in the initial part, it's just really cool seeing just these cool interactions between cards that was most likely intentional for the designers, and just kind of like a little secret. They gave you the key in the cards, and they just have a little secret behind a closed door that all you have to do is just look at the rest of the card pool and realize that, hey, there's something here. And that's not to say that Christopher Robin is going to be like super meta defining. I think he's a little bit he might be a little bit too slow. It takes a full turn cycle to get online, and of course requires you to be playing Shield and LeFou at high amounts in your deck in order to get them online. But it is, a more close way to gain lore and quickly, and also without having to wait a full turn cycle to then gain that lore. Because what you can do is that you can quest with Christopher Robin, you can pay 3, rest the shield, ready him up. You can then go ahead and challenge something because you can't quest anymore with the card. Has 6 willpower, so you probably should be okay. But preferably you try to pick off something small. Then you can play LeFou, ready him up again, gain 2 more lore. And so really just having that snowball ability late game is really awesome. And of course, more from a flavor perspective, I think it's awesome that, Pooh and Christopher Robin are together. Gains 2 lore, so it's kind of like each of them count as 1 lore, which I think is pretty cute. And then also 2 or more other characters to, I guess, kind of symbolize the friendship between all the other stuffed animals in the 100 Acre Woods. So Pooh is also my favorite Disney property, so it holds a special place in my heart. And this is the first thing I built. Like, I just immediately built a Ruby Amber deck that plays a bunch of evasive characters. They're harder to pick off. They're going to stay in the field because you can't challenge them. And then, of course, you try to get all the remaining lore that you need with this Christopher Robin ready up interaction that we found. We ate up the breadcrumbs. We eating good. We eating good.
I was a huge Winnie the Pooh fan growing up, and seeing all of the Winnie the Pooh characters in Rise of the Floodborn made me just so happy. I, in the world of people talking about like, oh, I'm going to build a, Snow White deck or something like that. I can't wait for there to be enough cards to build a Winnie the Pooh deck.
Right.
It's going to be it's gonna be so much fun. I cannot
It'll be a
believe we've
wonderful
gotten
day.
this far in the podcast, and like none of us talked about Honey Wizard in the art.
Oh my
section.
gosh. Yep.
So there's that, but I feel like it's just like it goes unspoken that is amazing. But
Really good. Honestly, that's all I wanted on release is like the Honey Wizard mat. If I got that and nothing else, I was gonna be a happy person.
yeah, we could not find any in our area, like any mats at all. But I will say, very first booster pack I opened, very first card was Honey Wizard, and I was like, "It is here.
Nice.
It is time."
You got it.
It's Dark Magician Winnie the Pooh.
There were barely any Pooh mats.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry, guys. I will mute the microphone every time you want.
I love it.
All right, Mr. James, what is your favorite card mechanic from set 2?
Yes. As many people know, I am a Amber Steel song player. I mostly picked that near the beginning of the season. 1, because I thought that it felt pretty strong, but 2, because I had an excuse to sing songs every single day at locals, and I did every single time I went to locals. So ultimately, my pick is Cinderella Ballroom Sensation and Amber. She is a 1-cost inkable 1/2 with 1 lore, and she has Singer 3, which was the sweet spot number we really needed. We had Sebastian be a Singer 4, but there weren't a lot of 4-cost songs. But Cinderella is amazing because she allows you to sing anything up to 3 really early in the game. Basically, on turn 2, you can start singing 3-cost songs. And so, like, I'm just gonna list a couple because this is amazing. And she's evergreen. That means like for the next 6 sets or whatever, she's gonna keep getting better. We're talking Friends on the Other Side. We're talking Mother Knows Best. We're talking World's Greatest Criminal Mind, Gruesome and Grim, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, Let the Storm Rage On, Straight There Rage and Fire, and so on and so on. And that's just so much potential literally in 2 sets, and it's only going to keep growing. She is amazing and probably tied for number 1 in the set for me, probably next to Merlin Coat. So good.
It's funny how a card with very little text has such an interesting impact on the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's definitely about the implications of what you could do with that card rather than just the text itself, right? Because, like, could you imagine? I'd imagine if they wanted to handhold a lot more, which, I'm glad they don't because it, would be a little bit obnoxious. But can you imagine? It's just like Singer 3. This includes all the available cost 3 or less songs in the game, and then you just have the list that James just said. Friends on the other side, right? But definitely to keep it, for the sake of brevity, right? Like, it's definitely great that the text is a little bit lower there. But yeah, I mean, definitely interesting. Very very few text on the card, but of course the implications of the rest of what you can do with it and gameplay is huge.
Not to mention the shift, the shift target,
boy.
the big stout-hearted Cinderella that everybody was so excited about for the set. I think she is, oddly enough, the more ideal target than the other ones. Like the craziest combo is literally Cinderella on 1, Simba on 2, then 0 to hero, and play Cinderella on turn 3. Like, that's insane. If you're not playing against Amber, where they can get you with World's Greatest Criminal Mind, that's such an amazing start to the game. What are they going to do on turn 3 against a Cinderella stout-hearted?
And I kid you not, like, that is really just the cherry on top as well. Because, like, if that card did not have the shift target, like the 6-drop Cinderella was like, let's say, just another character hypothetically, you'd still play Ballroom Sensation in your Amber Steel deck, right?
Yeah. I was I shout out to you, James. You were playing the Singer deck before it was cool. And like really, yeah. So it was cool. This card, I agree with you all. This card is going to be good forever. A first drop card that can, or a 1-drop card that can sing on 2, a 3 song on 2. Like, it's going to be good forever.
It's insane. Like things like Friends on the Other Side that you feel like you have to wait till turn 4 to do most of the time. Like getting that on turn 2 is crazy. Like it's the best part about it is that it almost crosses all the inks, maybe besides Ruby. Like she could be utilized in all of those. Even just like if you wanted to go crazy with Sapphire and do 1 jump ahead on turn 2 with her to basically ramp up faster than you normally would. I mean, there's just a lot of things you can do with it.
If you can't beat him, join him. I'm going to join Liam with the bad jokes this episode. I do have a bone to pick with you, James. The card isn't evergreen. It's an amber. It's ever yellow.
Oh,
no. Don't. No, he's influencing him. It's happening. It's getting worse.
I love it.
Oh
Mhm.
man, it's
Mhm.
spreading.
It would be evergreen if it was an emerald. Okay.
Oh
Keep up.
no.
He's right. He's right.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to interrupt so I can talk about my card so this doesn't get any worse and more people leave. I'm really excited for Arthur, the Wizard's Apprentice. It is a 3-cost, non-inkable character, 1 strength, 3 willpower, 1 pip of lore, and the ability is what fascinates me. It's student. Whenever this character quests, aka the Arthur, you may return another chosen character of yours to your hand to gain 2 lore. So the most obvious wombo combo was using Merlin the goat, who could actually be the literal goat of the set, because when you play Merlin and when he leaves play, you gain 1 lore. So you, with 2 cards, you get 5 lore because you played the Merlin for 1. You then quest with Merlin for 2. You then quest with Arthur for 3. And then you return Merlin to your hand for 2 more. And you're just sitting on the nuts. Oh, and then the Merlin goat triggers and you get another one. So you could potentially get 6 lore out of a single interaction. So you could just burst really, really, really fast. The other thing is you can use Arthur in conjunction with rush cards. So you could have a rush card on the field. They challenge or quest. Then you use Arthur to quest. You gain a lore from Arthur, and then you return the card to your hand, gaining 2 additional lore. Then you could play that card again with Rush and challenge immediately. You could also use Arthur to heal some of your damaged characters. You can also use Arthur to return characters that have, when you play this character, do a thing. So he just has so many offensive, defensive, and utilitarian options that this card, on the opposite end of Cinderella. So Cinderella is evergreen and playable for the rest of the game because of her simplicity. She just gets better with every song. Arthur is the inverse. He's significantly more complex, but he gives the deck builder and the pilot so many options in terms of, do I want to be aggressive? Do I want to use combo plays with Merlin? Do I want to use ETB triggers with characters like Maleficent or Hades, or, insert name of character that does a thing when you play them? So Arthur is just another interesting character because he's evergreen, but in a more combo centric way. And I feel like he's going to be a part of the meta in this set and in future sets just because of the low cost to the ground. He is susceptible to low end removal like Smash, but sure, that's totally fine because if your opponent doesn't have it or they're not playing steel, you have this threat that the opponent really has to respect. And even late game, Arthur is very, very, very potent if unanswered. And I just love it. It's a really interesting card that gives it, basically it kind of accelerates player expression in the game because you can use them to do so much. Depending on, really, the limit is your imagination.
Definitely. And I think it's really awesome just like to think about, I guess, like Super Scoop Up is a good example in Pokemon. Once you scoop up your Pokemon, all the damage is cleared, And, Arthur can also be kind of a funny way, like functionally quest for 3 if you choose to activate the effect, but also a funny way to just be like, yep, by the way, this card is back. Has the full health.
It's chicken. It's back.
Yeah, you've tried to deal with it. Try again, and let's move on from there.
Yeah, the only, man, you said it so well, Siggy. The only thing that I'll add to this is I'm always paying attention to the keywords, I think they're called, or the subtypes or classifications.
Sure.
Because there's not a lot that matter right now. I mean, we do see some princess, queen, and king synergy right now, and a few others. But Arthur is also a hero and a sorcerer. And although we haven't seen that mentioned much, for every like classification that a card has, it just has that much more potential to synergize in a that type matters deck later on.
Yeah.
And so having those 2 types is also kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how people play him because he's another form of interesting form of protection. So you could you have a character that quests for high value. So you think about like Hans or Cusco. So you could quest with Cusco. You could bounce him because it says Ward is a one direction. So Ward says opponents can't choose this character. except challenge. So it's kind of like hexproof from those of you who are Magic players. So you could do something really naughty where you quest with Cusco, you quest with Arthur, you put Cusco back into your hand, then you play Cusco, he's readied, can't be challenged, can't be targeted by an effect, and if your opponent doesn't have some kind of like mass removal, you've won the game. Unless they can obviously get to 20 before you do. So Arthur's just kind of cool because there really isn't a limit. And it's kind of fun to look and go, I could do this. Or I could do that. Or I could do this third thing. And then someone's like, what about this thing? And you're like, that's a fourth thing I never thought about. Oh my gosh, so cool. So cool.
I like that you mentioned mass removal. Just one other small thought on this. I despise playing Ruby Amethyst Control. I just hate it so much. And I started playing Bounce Aggro because the strategy was, you do as much as you can in turn 1 through 6. And then as soon as your opponent's about to drop their 7th ink and, hit that Be Prepared, you start bouncing your stuff back to your hand. And there's nothing better than dropping a Cusco after they clear the board with Be Prepared. So any cards that allow you to pull stuff back to prevent that board wipe is super awesome.
I will say, even on top of that, like especially if you start adding this package to your Amethyst Emerald deck that you play, Liam, like even if they do Be Prepared with like if you had 2 goats and a rabbit on the board, you're gonna draw cards and get lower. So like even with Be Prepared, you're still winning. Like it's true. I will say on top of that, like I know everybody kind of had a dislike for the Ruby Amethyst deck. What I like about this package with Merlin and Mim and Arthur is that hopefully it speeds up those games, because I think they're going to replace a lot of cards in Ruby Amethyst with this bounce package, and it's just going to make the games way less sluggish. And hopefully we're not spending 3 hours waiting to see the results of a top 8 game play out. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, mechanically it's interesting because you're essentially building a solo combo deck. So the Arthur Merlin package is basically solitaire. You're trying to win. You're playing 2 different games. So the control deck is trying to control the pace of the game, but the problem is Arthur and Merlin are kind of in their own realm doing whatever they want, and they just don't care about what you're doing because they're going to play and bounce and play and bounce and do their thing. And it's going to be fascinating to watch other players try to adapt, because so many decks traditionally are interactive. I do something, you try and stop it. You do something, I try and stop it. Arthur and Merlin couldn't care less. In fact, you're almost blessing them by interacting with them. It's like, oh, you got rid of my rabbit. Oh, cool, I get to draw cards. Oh, you got rid of my goat. Oh, I get to gain lore, and I'm just winning the game faster. So you're fueling the fire by interacting with them. It's not too different from like Psi Omega in Yu-Gi-Oh, where the best way to win is to just ignore them and play the game. So I feel like Arthur Merlin packages are going to be very much solitaire centric, where they're going to do their thing. They're going to play big lore questers or little small things that they can just keep bouncing. I mean, Hey fits super great into this because you can like lead off with Hey, get some value going, get some Arthur, get some goat, and just keep cycling through your stuff. And the opponent isn't going to be able to do too terribly much to stop you. You do have to protect Arthur somehow. So maybe try and hide him behind a bodyguard, or just, keep drawing him because you're going to have access to friends on the other side and so on and so forth. But if the Arthur goes down, that is a pretty significant like combo piece. But if you can get like 2 Arthurs on the board and then you just go to town, oh boy, no, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you from just like even a cost perspective, I think what's great about Arthur is that he has a 3 cost, so even if he does get smashed, it's not like you're losing. You're doing a fair trade. So I think that's what makes him fine. I think if he was a 1/4, he'd be insane. But being a 3 cost means that getting smashed doesn't really hurt you too much. Even if it slows you down from your combo pulling off just a little bit.
You could run him with that resist Cogsworth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be gross. But anywho, we are going to wrap up the show. It has been a great episode. I am so excited to see what players and deck builders concoct out of this new set, because we have 204 cards, so many permutations, so many options. And I think set 2 is really, really interesting because there's so much flexibility. There's so much more. It just feels like set 1 was a great establishing cornerstone, and set 2 is building upon that. but there's just this wide variety of, do you want to do this or that or a third thing? Go for it. And then if you just want to enhance the deck you already had, you could do that too. Or you can come up with something completely different. And then multiplayer, woo, there are so many fun things and toys in here. It's kind of fascinating because after set 2, there's set 3. And then after the set 3, there's set 4. And there's just going to be this constant influx of, oh, I can do this and that and another thing. And just you keep growing the opportunity. And I think that's probably Lorcana's strongest suite is many card games are very linear. They're very much based on a theme or an archetype, and you kind of have to cater to that. And Lorcana keeps breaking that stereotype of you can do, multiple colors with multiple things with multiple adjustments to that thing. So we're going to see control evolve. We're going to see aggro evolve. We finally have a true combo deck. So we're going to see combo come into play. We could definitely see the discard package as like a wall stall sort of deck come to fruition as well, because that's just a great counter to control, just slowing things even further down and removing all their options. It's fascinating that there's a pretty wide range of things that have honestly very good viability to see play.
Totally agree. I just want to mention, I think we've heard that, they designed the first 3 sets all together. And so I think what they gave us with set 1 is, a bike with some training wheels. And they're like, this is how you ride the bike, and we all kind of pedaled along. And in this set, they're taking the training wheels off and they're like, all right, now this is what the game can kind of do. And they give us some more toys. And with set 3, they're going to give us a multi-geared bike, the full package, and be like, all right, this is Lorcana.
You could shift.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Was that a pun?
No. It's a mechanical joke.
I like it. But yeah, no, so I think you're right. I think we're getting more of Lorcana now in set 2, and it's really exciting.
Also, shout out to Magic Broom, the broom deck. It's coming to life.
Yo,
I love
Broom Tribal.
Yeah, I love they only gave us one broom. It's not like here's the broom deck. It's like
they're monsters.
Here's another taste.
What should there be like a broom in every color, and you're just sitting there going, "Uh-oh, this is bad. This is really bad."
In every set.
No, that would take years. Painful. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've got Liam and Aaron from the Illumineers. Why don't you tell all of our listeners where they can find you, check out your content, and connect with another great Lorcana content creator?
Oh, first off, thank you again so much for having us. It honestly is an honor, whenever we get asked to be here, and it was a ton of fun. Aaron had to step away to take care of our infant. But love it if anybody wants to join us, with the content we're doing. We are at Illumineers on YouTube, Twitter, or the artist formerly known as Twitter. We are at the Illumineers on Instagram, and at Illumineers on Twitch. We cover Lorcana exclusively right now, but we really focus on the art and the design of the game, as well as some mechanics and products. So thanks for having us, and hope we can do it again soon.
Excellent. Thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We love and appreciate all of our listeners around the world. Make sure to follow us on social media, including X, Facebook, and YouTube, with all of our links in the show notes. You can also help support one of our favorite local businesses by picking up your trading card game singles and supplies at alchemistrefuge.shop. We'll see everybody on the next episode. So remember that Ohana means family, which means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. One.